Hello and welcome to a Halloween special of Crawl Error. Today I am joined by Izzi Smith of Ryte. And Izzi, I've got a question for you. How is everything?
Everything is fine.
Take two works. Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad, thank you. I'm very happy that, as people might notice in different recordings, my makeup changes because it's a different day, but today's makeup's better than yesterday's,
It's fabulous. Very
which is,
impressive.
which is a squad goal. So without further ado, no one who clicks on this video has the slightest bit of interest in what I've got to say, so I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you so much. Okay, let me get my slides up. Okay, can you see everything? Perfect. Okay, now I need to, whoops, wrong one. 1 second. Oh, just need to get on my screen this thing, hide my emails. So professional, I know. All right, we're good to go. This is Halloween.
I get to test out my new pixelation tool, which is going to be great.
It's Halloween, it's supposed to be scary. Okay, hi everyone and welcome to my talk all about structured data, with the theme today being, of course, this is fine. So a little bit about me. First of all, hello, I'm Izzi Smith and I'm a technical SEO analyst at Ryte, and we are a software as a service company specializing in SEO in Munich, Germany. I love making bad memes, and if you want to get in touch with me, follow me on Twitter or hit me up via email. All right, let's talk about wonderful structured data. That's the theme for today. And a little bit of background for you all, just so that we're all on the same level. Structured data, sorry if I'm reading from the slides. It happens. Structured data is a standardized format that helps SEOs like us and webmasters provide explicit meaning about a page for machines. And this way, it can also be much easier for machines like search engines to classify and category all those entities and topics that they come across. And when information is highly structured like this and predictable, search engines can easily display it in creative ways, like, of course, fabulous rich results the website owners can use to display more data on the search results and just keep improving their click-through rates. Ta-da! And John Moo of Google, what would we do without him, said, even without the structured data that leads to rich results, our systems profit by understanding the pages better when they use structured data. So another background note is they're using structured data to gather information about the web and about the world in general. So really to power this wonderful knowledge graph that they have, this really amazing and vast collection of data and facts and entities. And with all that better structured data and better systems that can reliably interpret unstructured data as well, search engines can harvest wonderful facts, and facts that can power informational intent results like these, where you see a knowledge panel and a knowledge card result. Now, of course, a lot can go wrong when you're implementing structured data on our website, such as receiving a manual penalty for manipulation, getting syntax issues, and all sorts. But today is less about putting out those structured data fires. I wanted to go on something a little bit more scarier, like getting the darn thing implemented, which is something that SEOs can't always achieve, especially when they don't have such access to developer resources. So today I want to show you how you can create a damn fine structured data strategy that will really help you improve those implementations across your websites to scale it efficiently, and what it can also help you achieve. How can we as SEOs implement structured data? So this is, of course, the basic formula. You have your data, you use the data vocabulary, which is schema.org, that's widely used and developed by the main founding fathers of the search engine world, and using the data interchange format JSON LD. But of course, you need to provide relevant nesting that shows those intrinsic connections across your data and all those specific topics you mentioned. These connections are just as important, if not even more important, as your item types that you're actually communicating. So showing that this recipe belongs or has a nested video object and is the author of this person, and the person is the author of this recipe. See, it's important to grasp. And using things like IDs in order to really demonstrate those entity relationships. Like, this product is the part of the brand and it was founded by this person. Everything is very important to show those connections and relationships. But getting this live and available on your website is a different story. You can create wonderful structured data scripts with JSON LD and sit there and bask in its glory, but it's not going to do anything until you get it readable and properly input on your website. So I did a poll on Twitter, which I like to do every now and then, and I asked the community how they implement structured data on their website, and the majority of the people out there require dev resources. But I just wanted to go into the other ways as well, other methods. So plugins for popular CMSs can really help us out, like Yoast and Schema App are doing great advancements for the SEO and the data world, thanks to them. If you're really struggling to get structured data implemented with your developers, then JavaScript and Google Tag Manager can be a great workaround, although it's not the ideal solution. But recently, Google, especially Martin Splitt, have been creating a lot more documents out there explaining how you can properly get it implemented. So check out that resource if you need more help. And manually, I used to do this a lot in my previous role, so creating the scripts myself and pushing them live to the page, but this can be really time consuming to create and also validate. Make sure you don't have any specific syntax issues in there. And it can cause huge problems if your content is dynamic or frequently changing, because you need to update the structured data with that. So it isn't always the ideal solution. In general, the most efficient and reliable way usually requires assistance from our wonderful developers, which means getting the required resources and being available in this prioritization queue. So you got to ask for help, which is scary in order to get the buy-in. But what's really going to help you out is showing the justification and the results. Scary. But it's going to be fine. I'm going to show you some damn fine structured data implementation and testing frameworks. Yay. So how do we get there? First of all, we need to understand the problem and then understand if structured data can resolve this. If it can't, don't bother. Easy. If it can, if structured data can resolve it, you really need to define and map out the primary goal that you want to achieve. And then you can test with minimum viable markup. That's what I like to call it. So nothing too elaborate or too fancy, just the bare minimum that is going to get you some kind of results. Then you need to evaluate, like any specific test, and see if it was beneficial. And easy peasy, if yes, then roll it out. And if not, then you tried. Maybe there are some secondary benefits. We can go into that later. But if not, you don't need to bother. So let's go through all of these steps together. Step 1, seeing or identifying if structured data is the solution to those issues that you're facing. Because something we really need to consider more is, is structured data and schema markup really necessary for a website? So another quote from John, where it says, also think about what it is that you want to achieve with structured data. Don't just do it because it's possible. Now, this reminds me of a very famous quote from Dr. Ian Malcolm of Jurassic Park, who said, your SEOs were so preoccupied with whether they could that they didn't stop to think if they should. Now, I think this is true for a lot of things in SEO. And remember that delightful structured data may not always be a priority for your content. There could be many more important issues to solve on your website before figuring out if structured data implementation is super important for you right now. So what can structured data help us improve? First of all, that we mostly associate it with is improving subpar CTR, so click-through rate, using structured data to build rich results that stand out in the SERPs and help us drive more traffic to our website. But it can also help us with navigational results. So these pure branded answer intent or navigation intent queries, helping us stand out more prominently in those and really taking control over the data that we feed to the knowledge graph. It can help us with irrelevant traffic. So we can also use rich results to make sure that we're bringing the right kind of qualified visitors to our website. And it can help improve lack of clarity because we can make these connections and these facts become more clear to Google. First of all, let's jump into the CTR topic. On SERP optimization, it has many different names. I change it every week, honestly, but whatever you want to call it, on SERP SEO is a really crucial part of being an SEO, because not only do you have to make sure that you're ranking prominently, but you need to ensure that you're standing out and getting people to your website. So using rich results is a great way of doing that. Now we have 29 different rich results in total, and there's not just rich snippets that we used to call them, but also search enhancements that really benefit the quality of Google search. You'll see a lot there. Some won't be relevant for you, but I'm sure that one or two will be. Now, the most popular that we're aware of are products, recipes, FAQs, and top stories. We also had a couple of new ones this year. So image licensing, proving the license of a photo on image search, and also the COVID-19 announcements, which was a very necessary rollout in April. If you're, oh, losing my voice. If you're new to this, just head over to the search reference overview here, where you're going to see all of those different structured data rich result types. You could also set up a visual ping. This is a service where you can enter a web page and it will notify you whenever content or the layout changes. So you can be really aware if Google is applying changes to the documentation. If you already are working on a rich result or have those, if they edit the requirements, then you could lose those rich results. So keep an eye there. But normally they will communicate this over Twitter or on their blog. How can you really start with improving your click-through rate? So in the first instance, we need to see again if it's a problem for us. So find those click-through rate underperformers that are worth testing on. So in the first instance, I like to start from a URL basis because it's easier to classify the intents here and figure out if there is a higher intent to click on the page, or if there is simply a purely satisfactional, for example, a direct answer or a featured snippet that won't be driving users to the page. And then I'm going to filter down and find some key underperformers to really work on and test on. So for me, it's things like impressions are of course greater than 0, but you can increase that depending on the amount of impressions that you receive. The position is significant. Again, it will depend on you, but I like to take position 3 or above, sometimes 5 or above. The competition is mid to low. So if it's a really high competition keyword that has a lot of ads on the results, then you're going to see a lower click-through rate anyway. And the click-through rate is less than 5%. And yeah, so I like to create these segments in Ryte Search Success that is really pulling in all of that Google Search Console data. So I really know what my CTR underperformers are. And then I really want to play around with the thresholds to see what's most effective and then keep separating by page types. But remember, you don't always need rich results powering schema to stand out in SERPs, to enrich those snippets that you have. There are a few different ways that you can keep improving your content to stand out even more. So having clear menus and navigation can really assist with those one-line site links that are just a nice little extension of your snippet on the SERP. And they will also jump people directly into the content in some cases when it's the jump anchor link. So they get to the page, to the subpage, or to the piece of content that they're looking for. You can use plain HTML tables or div containers, which can sometimes be taken to bulk out SERP snippets in this kind of structured snippet. I like to call them structured snippets. So here's an example from Wikipedia that utilizes a lot of tables, and then it's shown in the SERP really nicely here. You get like 2 or 3 extra lines of real estate, which is amazing. And don't forget featured snippets, which is one of my favorite topics, and I talk about them too much, I think, but these are the outcome of things like creating high quality resources, utilizing relevant structure, and really trying to target and hit the nail on the head when it comes to searcher intent. Okay, that was CTR. So maybe you've already understood or you've got some ideas of how to analyze if your CTR is really lacking and needs some enrichment. Next, let's go on to navigational results. What are those? So there's 2 different flavors that I'm focusing on today. These are the brand knowledge panels that are displayed for key brand searches, so your pure brand term. And that's always the panel on the right-hand side. Yes, the right-hand side. I just forgot what was left and right there. It's fine. Yeah, I do the thing as well. Yeah. Yes, we're going to see lots of key points about your company or your brand. I'm focusing on brand knowledge panels because maybe we are really famous people. Maybe Ryan Reynolds does SEO and he wants to know more about structured data. If so, hi Ryan. Yes, so your brand knowledge panel will display different pieces of information about your organization, and it might also show if you're utilizing things like the Google Merchant feed, these popular products below. There's also branded knowledge cards. So these are the quick facts that you'll see directly on the SERP. So Brighton SEO date, Lush contact number, who is the founder of Google, and so on. So if someone's looking for brand plus piece of information. I know what you're thinking, why should we give Google all of the answers when we can feed them the structured data, they can display a quick answer and reap all the benefit themselves rather than someone visiting my website and looking for the answer. But remember, there are some key things here. So representation by using structured data is better than being excluded. If your competitor is marking up their data to receive these types of things, they could have a one-up over you. You also want to be in control of the data that you're feeding to Google and make sure there's no misinformation or misrepresentation about your company. Sometimes it's better to have satisfaction on the SERP rather than a really fast website visit. So, I mean, dates for an event is a great example of this. I just want to know when it is. I've already bought a ticket. Just show me the answer on the SERP, and then I don't need to visit the page. And that's fine for your company as well, because you want to bring meaningful traffic to your page rather than just clicks that are looking for a piece of data and then bouncing back. So how can you really start with improving navigational results? I have some quick tips for keyword research that you can do to find those important navigational or branded terms. So first of all, you want to do a quick analysis of finding your branded terms. Of course, you'll know what that is, but also look for popular misspellings. So we also get a lot of traffic for onpage.org, which was our name few years ago. It changed like back in 2017. So you want to try and capture all of those. You can then also check the knowledge graph entity search API tester by entering the query that is your brand or your specific name if you're a celebrity, hi Ryan, and then see what types of relations and data is being surfaced there. But I much prefer Carl Hendy's tool that he built using that API, the knowledge graph search, which is a much more user-friendly way of assessing how your entities are being displayed in search results, and you can find any data conflicts that you need to address. You can also take control of these results. You can attempt to via this claim the knowledge panel button below. Now you need to prove that you are this person or you belong to this brand via certain criteria, but it can be highly worth it. That's for your pure branded knowledge panels. Now for your navigational keywords, you should try and create some kind of segments. You don't need to do this using Ryte, but you can take the branded terms and then combine it with common keyword modifiers around navigational terms like sign in, change password, what is the hotline. Very important to make sure your phone number and contact credentials are correct here, address, call, and so on, these types of modifiers. And also take a look at the comparison keywords, because these could also have entity features like the one above, like best SEO tools, where Google is surfacing all of the software they know about that is for SEO purposes. And you could also find some key feature snippet opportunities. So here I just added in things like compare and versus, alternative, those types of comparison modifiers. If you really need to keep improving your knowledge panels, you can try to feed Google and the other search engine systems with organization markup. And now organization, because you could also use the most specific type like local business and so on. But you also want to nest it within relevant pages and not just on the home page. For example, it can really make sense to specify here for Yoast that the plugin itself was created by the Yoast organization, and just keep showing all those relationships as best as you can. And for this, like I mentioned before, you can use IDs that denote the connection across entities on your domain. I'm using my hands a lot. This is fine. And again, yeah, I just want to like reiterate this whole connection point of view from structured data. So showing how important it is that this product was created by this organization, was reviewed by this person, you know, really building up these internal knowledge graphs, if you will, that is really important for machines to understand. Okay, finally, I'm just going to zip through this, the third and fourth points. Third and fourth points. I don't know, either done. I'll have some more gin. It's not actually gin.
That explains everything.
This is fine. Okay, irrelevant traffic. I think it's a really cool feature of rich results that you can qualify traffic before it comes to your website. Again, it really goes back to this point of making sure that you're bringing really meaningful visits to your pages. So someone looking for lasagna recipes, they're going to say, okay, this one looks nice, but actually I'm on a diet. So I'm going to choose this one below that has a lot less calories in the portion. And this way, it's going to make sure that you have more retainable traffic. For example, something like item availability that you can display for out of stock products that are going to return. This is how it looks like in the markup when you visualize it. Maybe you lose traffic, but you're just going to make sure that you have the right kind of traffic coming to your pages, not just a quick bounce. And in order to find those cases to improve, really look at your high bounce rates to find the pages that are worth testing on. And finally, lack of clarity. So structured data, again, solidifies those connections across topics and entities. And this can be really important for proving EAT signals to Google and search engines. Sometimes we need to give an additional push to ensure that all of these relationships have no chance of being misunderstood. And that's where we can really use schema. So showing that this wonderful and reliable doctor, Dr. Izzi MD, what is her job title? What are her awards and credentials? Where did she study? All of these things where you need to prove the authenticity to search engines. A really great guide on this, I have to mention, was from Lily Ray. Lily, you're great. And if EAT is required, check how the main person entity is qualified and whether that is truly clear for search engines. So I just took this Python 3 course there by the great Paul Resnick. I don't know who he is. I'm sure he's wonderful. But in this case, where maybe you need to prove expertise, you could also run the content through Google's Cloud Natural Language API tester and see if those entities are recognizable or not. Now, Google has already done a great job at picking out where this person studied, their specific qualifications and those types of things. So maybe in this case, you don't need to utilize structured data. So always double check if you need to add that. Okay, tick off the first point. Don't worry, the last parts are relatively fast. Next, we're going to lay out some clear, quantifiable goals you aim to achieve. So what is your objective and which structured data types will help you reach that goal? There may also be some secondary achievements after the implementation too, which is also going to be great. So just some tips of specific KPIs that you can look out for when testing with structured data are increasing things like non-branded clicks, increasing commercial keyword impressions via the whole navigational result enrichment, reducing bounce rate, and also increasing conversions via that more qualified traffic. With your developers, it's always better to speak their language, especially if you're not just dealing with developers, but product owners and project managers, but prepare those requests as things like user stories when they're using Jira and they're agile. Yes, in the agile frameworks, yeah, to aid with all that planning and prioritization. Okay, and then we want to apply minimal viable markup to your test pages. If you're able to roll out the most elaborate and fantastic structured data scripts ever, then go for it. It's harder to test this way because not everything will have an impact. But I think in the first instance, if you do have to roll out something pretty quickly, just get enough that will make a rich result possible or a search enhancement change happen. So if you need fast results, just add the required properties that you'll find on the documentation from Google. You could try and manually create test scripts yourself. It's very quick and easy to work with JSON LD. It's just key value pairs, very easy for machines and humans to read it. If you use a crawler, you can manually extract the required data that exists on your website already with some custom settings. Once you have all of that information, you can just export it to Excel or Google Sheets and then clean it up. So with Lush that I was creating structured data for, I just extracted things like the rating counts, the rating value, the name, the price, description, those things that I need for product-rich results. I'm just going to then create a basic template and run it by the rich results test and see if it works. And back on Google Sheets, just build a basic concatenate that pulls all of that data from my other tab and fills up the template that I created. So I've got this, the structured data for all of those product pages in less than 30 minutes work. Bam. And for testing, it's always a good idea to create a control group that you can compare against, so to have a good baseline. Try and have very similar pages, because if there are if there are significant changes going on in the SERPs, it's always better to have those similar URLs. Okay, tick. Final step is tracking benefits and changes. I do like to create page groups or page segments in Ryte Search Access or using Google Analytics so that you can properly track changes over time. So you can easily do this in Google Analytics, just add in all the URLs that you've applied the changes to and then add it into your reports. Then you can compare like how the performance is over time. So I totally edited the screenshot. That'd be good if I mean, you can kind of tell there, but you could try, or you should be able to show some kind of increase on the KPI that you're aiming to improve. If you're not seeing any rich results despite wanting to go out there and grabbing some, there could be a specific reason for that. Maybe you have a manual rich results penalty for manipulating structured data. Sometimes Google won't always display a rich result for all queries if they don't think it's relevant enough for someone's interaction. There could be syntax errors or parsing problems, so just run it in the rich results testing tool. You could also not get rich results if your site has been perceived as low quality by Google's algorithms. So you can use a site search with those pages with the correct structured data to see if there are rich results there, and if not, you know it's some kind of, and if there are rich results, then you know it's a quality problem. And like I mentioned before, maybe Google updated their requirements for the rich result to be displayed and you weren't aware of that. So double check the documentation. Done. Okay. And if it was a success, then roll that bad boy out. Now you have all of that justification and results to present. It sounded like a long-winded process, but honestly, like, this will help you out in many ways, not just for getting structured data implemented, but you can apply this framework for many different technical changes that need to take place on your website. And once you have a fabulous process in place, you can start to test even more. There's lots of fabulous things you can do with structured data that you can check out there. Okay. Happy structuring, enjoy. And finally, I just wanted to mention, seeing as we're on the topic of structured data, we do have a really nice Chrome plugin that you can just click open on any page and it's going to show you if you have any issues or any missing required properties, and just visualize that structuring, that nesting that I mentioned so often. There you can find it on the Chrome store via that nice link. Okay, and yeah, just a closing message, even though everything these days seems a bit like this, I hope you still find joy in all the wonderful small successes in life, like getting structured data implemented, or being able to say that you and your loved ones are healthy, or getting to dress up in stupid costumes for an audience. Thank you so much. I'm Izzy, and stay in touch.
Thank you very much, Izzy, for a great presentation.
You're welcome.
I love the 2020 optimism that Ryan Reynolds is in fact an SEO and has found his way to this channel, is watching this video. And if that's the case, hi Ryan.
Hi Ryan. Call me back. Don't worry, he always calls me back. Just kidding. I'm sure Ryan is so into SEO. Like, how could you not be? It is a magnificent industry.
I was going to say, I didn't realise that like they published phone numbers on restraining orders nowadays. That was pretty insightful information there, Izzy. But no, thank you very much for your time.
Sure.
Giving us a fine presentation. And also, I'm going to be curious now. Where did you get the hat? I mean, how many corners of the internet did you have to go to get that?
I got it on Amazon. It's a cowboy hat for dogs, because some people like to apparently dress their dogs up as cowboys. So I thought I'd take one off the marketplace, and then one poor dog doesn't have to suffer.
Well, this Halloween episode just took an even scarier twist. And not wanting to rip off mid-2000s Top Gear, but on that bombshell, I've been Dan Taylor and I've done absolutely nothing in this episode. So thank you very much to Izzy. And thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.